you very much for staying on the marketplace. Now, let's settle for the details now. And the British High Commissioner to Ghana, Ian Walker, says the UK government's trade ties with the country remains unchanged despite the Brexit transition period, which ends in 2020. Ian Walker has been explaining to Joy Business various strategies his government is employing to rather expand trade opportunities with other African countries, including Ghana. Charles Aite has more in this report.
As the Commonwealth Heads of Government meetings kickstarts next week in London, we engage the High Commissioner Ian Walker, who assures us of deeper bilateral ties between the UK and Ghana and other investment opportunities as well. The British High Commissioner to Ghana, Ian Walker, has discounted claims that the UK's Brexit transition period, which ends in 2020, will include austere economic reforms which will trickle down to job cuts and trimmed funds for development projects. However, speaking exclusively to Joy Business, Ian Walker hinted that Britain will rather reassess all trade partnerships with states including Ghana. According to him, this assessment will rather open up great trade and investment opportunities in the country.
I think it's about saying how will the UK reorientate some of its trade, and let's not forget, whilst we are leaving the EU, we will retain very close relationships with our European friends and allies. So I think that we're talking about is a reorientation, but for me one that comes with lots of opportunity, and I don't see it as a negative, certainly don't see it as a negative with regard to the Ghana-UK relationship. Quite the opposite, actually. I see it as a fairly distinct opportunity for us to reset and reinvest in each other's economies.
Ian Walker has also been updating Joy Business on the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which takes place in London next week. According to the British High Commissioner, the meeting will see all 53 heads and ministers of government engage with the UK government on new ways to deepen bilateral trade ties.
I think it's quite a historic Commonwealth Summit, as well as being a regular. It's a biannual event every 2 years. What is it? I think it's a chance to get the Commonwealth member states together, 53 countries, of which about a third of the world's population under 25 lives in those countries, to bring together those leaders and to talk about the issues that are important to them. It's very much a Commonwealth. It's not about the UK lead. It's just the UK is hosting it this year. 2 years ago it was in Malta, and in 2 years' time it will be somewhere else.
So far, Britain has given Ghana more than 69 million euros in balance of payment support. Ghana has reportedly acquired more aid from Britain than any African country except Zimbabwe.
Now, in other stories, the Ghanaian economy can now be classified as being dominated by activities in the services sector. Figures released by the Statistical Service showed that its share of the total economy continues to increase. There's more in this report.
The report showed the services sector, which includes finance and insurance, trade, transport, hotels, information and communication, had been one of the main drivers of the country's economic growth, even performing better than industry when oil production was at its peak. The services sector's growth was fueled by strong performances in the banking sector. Government statistician Bawadia tells Joy Business the trend over the past years show the country is now services-led.
And for 2017, the share of services was close to what we observed in 2016, that is 56.6%. And this was followed by industry with a figure around 24.3%. Yeah, the contribution of services sector is quite large. In fact, for 2016, it accounted for about 56.8% of the entire GDP. And then in 2017, it again accounted for 56.6% of the entire GDP. So we are largely a service-led economy. But we also observe that the contribution of industry has also been substantial. And in 2017, it accounted for about 24.3%.
Industry followed, having 25% share of the economy, and agriculture with 18%. The 8.5% overall growth for last year was one of the highest in recent times.
Now let's turn our attention now to some development stories in the petroleum industry. And former Deputy Finance Minister Akufo-Addo has rejected findings of a recent Public Interest and Accountability Committee PIAC report on oil revenue expenditure. The committee's findings showed that about 50% of oil cash projects did not exist, while finance ministers from 2011 to date have also failed to update Parliament on oil revenue spending. Speaking earlier on Pulse, Mr. Forson said the report showed that members of the committee don't understand how public financial management and accounting rules play out.
I disagree with the Public Interest and Accountability Committee. I say this because somebody is making a very sweeping statement without checking. Raymond, it is very easy for anyone to look at the budget as projected and project expenditure, go to the ground and make reconciliation and say that government had planned to raise 1.4 billion for the year 2016, for instance, from annual budget funding amount. And then to use the 1.4 billion and say that because ABCD is going to come in, per the budget statement, A is supposed to be done, B is supposed to be done, up to Z. Yet I can't see them. But when you make that kind of analysis, it is dead on arrival. Dead on arrival. You think that was what was that? Yes, probably. I mean, and because what they are trying to portray is not certainly the situation. I'll give you an example. In the year 2016, the projections from the annual budget funding amount, the oil money that is supposed to support the implementation of the 2016 budget, was about 1.4 billion Ghana cedis. Okay. 1.4 billion Ghana cedis. At the end of the year 2016, the actual receipt that went into the budget for the purposes of funding the 2016 budget was only 700 million. Interesting. So therefore, you will make a mistake by looking at the budget statement, look at the accompanied expenditure lines, and then say that they said they are going to use the money to do A, B, C, D, yet I've gone out there and the money is not there because they were projections in the first place. I would have wished
projection based on expected money coming in. Are you saying that the money never came in?
Yeah, of course. That's I'm giving you statistics. I'm giving you numbers. In the year 2016, as I said, we projected to receive an amount of 1.4 billion for the budget in the form of oil revenue coming in. And we had 8 corresponding expenditures. Unfortunately, by the end of the year 2016, the actual receipt in the form of annual budget funding amount as per the Petroleum Revenue Management Act was only 700 million. So the project that we had anticipated to implement, obviously we will not be able to implement those projects. So that is what I'm trying to tell you, that it will be a mistake for anyone to look at the headline expenditure as projected and then conclude that government could not do it and so therefore the money did not go there. My question to PIAC is simple. Can they show us evidence of government of Ghana releases or payment to those projects of which the project turned out to be that the projects are not in existence? Until that time, I will contest this report.
Very, very interesting comments there by the former Deputy Finance Minister Akufo-Addo on the work of PIAC. Now let's get the views of a former member of the PIAC who is currently the Executive Director of KITE, Ishmael Ejekunihini, to fill us in on why and how PIAC should report on such discrepancies. Now Ishmael, you're welcome to the show. Now in the first place, the former deputy finance minister has punched holes in your operations or in PIAC's operations, as well as undermined the competence of some of the members or the members of PIAC. Now, do you in the first place, agree with these initial comments that he's made?
Let me greet your viewers. I think it's a very sad remark to hear a former deputy minister saying what he said. I've listened to the playback of the interview, and obviously I'm not sure he's read the report that PIAC produced and what exactly PIAC sought to do. I've heard another deputy minister also making similar comments. I think they should probably go and read what PIAC has done, and based on that, maybe come back. You should let them go and read the documents and come back. You see, they are talking about budget projections, what PIAC has done, and it's not now. And tell you what, Emmanuel, next week we are going to launch a report ourselves. I'm talking about KITE, and similar findings have been made. Look, they are not talking about budgetary allocations. They are talking about actual expenditure as released and published by the Ministry of Finance itself. When the Ministry of Finance is reporting on the petroleum funds, they provide a table or a list of projects that they use the ABFA to fund every year. So this is not based on budgetary allocation. This is actually based on what PIAC has done and what I have seen from the report. Is actual figures as released by the Ministry of, in fact, his ministry. You take all the report.
Ishmael, before you continue, so do you sometimes get situations where we have actual figures, but yet we don't have the exact amount of money coming in from the Ministry of Finance to fund such projects?
I'm saying that we are talking about two different things here.
Okay.
You see, we are not talking about what the Ministry of Finance said they were going to get from ABFA. PIAC is talking about what I saw from the PIAC report and what we have done, and actually gone back to check with even these entities. It's actually list of projects released by Ministry of Finance, not in the budget, but in what they call the report that they're supposed to be publishing every year on the petroleum funds. These are not budget list of projects in the budget, but list of projects they themselves, you see, in their reports and the information they provide to PIAC, they will list the projects that they use oil money to fund and the equivalent amount in the table, in the annexure of the report. So what PIAC did is that they took the projects listed as funded, they selected some of them, and went into the community. If the Ministry of Finance says that 100,000 cedis have been spent on the project, they go to the projects that the Ministry of Finance themselves they provided in their report as having used the oil money to fund. It's not budget they are talking about here.
All right.
Okay, so they need to read the methodology or exactly what PIAC did, and I'm saying that next week we are also going to launch a similar report which shows we made similar findings. But you see, when he talks about PIAC saying that 50% of projects are missing, PIAC is not saying that. What I heard PIAC saying, they didn't say that 50% of all oil funded projects are missing. They mentioned the projects they visited in the 3 northern regions, and out of the projects they visited, they didn't find 50%. So if there were 14 projects, it means they didn't find 7 projects. They are not talking about 50% of all the 500 or so projects that they funded. So
exactly.
I think they need. Yeah.
And this is not the first time it's actually coming up, because ASEP earlier also published something similar to this. Now, do you also, or does PIAC also interact with the contractors who are supposed to be working on these projects to find out why they've not received such monies?
Emmanuel, some of the contractors, you see, how do you even know the contractor unless the Ministry of Finance or the Ministry of Education that engage the contractor provides the name? In the report that they submit to Parliament, and the information they give to PIAC, they don't even mention the total contract sum. They don't even mention who the contractors are. So what PIAC has done themselves, to go to the Israel, and in fact, let me tell you what we have done. What we did was to go to the ministry to tell us who the contractors are, how much, what the total contract sum is, and how much of what percentage of that was being sponsored by oil money. When you do that reconciliation or get that information, then you're able to go to the field where the contractors are available. You talk to them. Where they are not, you just go and do physical inspection of the project. If you tell me that the project is at Kaswa, in that particular location, I go to Kaswa and I don't find the project there, I have every right to report what I saw. What we did was to even come back, okay, in our research. We came back and went to the ministry and said, look, we went to the field, you gave us this project. In fact, you confirmed that these projects were supposed to be on the ground. You told us how much of the money is coming from oil money, but we couldn't find these projects. There are instances that the Ministry of Education, for example, will tell you that, oh, this school project, when we went, is being moved to another community. That's how come you didn't find it there. Okay. So they should take their time and listen to what they are saying. In fact, what we all need to do is to get the Auditor General to go back and do a thorough audit of all the projects that oil money is supposed to have funded, and then we see the rot that is coming out of these whole things. In some cases, it's because oil money is only partially funding the project, so you may not go and see it there. But you shouldn't create the impression that you are talking about budgetary allocations. These are actual expenditure. They themselves reported that they have spent on the project. Now,
so is the report suggesting that these monies may have gone into the pockets of some people, I mean, within the ministry or elsewhere?
Not quite. You see, you wouldn't be able to know until you have the full set of information you need. But let me tell you what we found, okay? And I believe PIAC also found similar thing. What we found was that averagely, the projects that out of the 30 projects that we followed, the contribution of oil money to that was averagely 50, between 56 and 60%. Okay? So what it means is that for the 30 projects, the oil money wasn't supposed to fund all of them. So depending on the type of project, if it's a road project, for example, and the oil money is only doing 10% of that, when you go there, obviously, you probably wouldn't see the road, and you might think that the money has been squandered, but it's only because oil money is not the only source of funding. So probably a 10% was only meant for mobilization, and then other counterpart funding didn't come through. That's why everybody is saying that let's select a few projects, and let's say that if the oil money can do only 10 of the project, let's start with oil money from beginning to the end, and let's be able to go back and say that, oh, the oil projects are there and they are delivering what they are supposed to do. But the moment you commingle the oil money with other sources of funding, you can always find an alibi in the fact that, oh, donor funding didn't come through, we couldn't generate enough IGF, so that's how come the project is hanging. We will never know where the monies went until there is, in some cases, forensic audits of some of the projects.
All right, that'll be it for now. Many thanks for your time, Ishmael Ejekumihini, and he is the executive director of KIDE and once a member of the Public Interest Accountability Committee, PIAC. He's been sharing his reactions to what the Deputy Finance Minister Atto stated earlier on the report released by PIAC. Now, away from that, President Akufo-Addo has vowed to make the private sector anchor for his economic transformation programs in the coming months. The president said this at the launch of his 7-year economic development plan. The document, anchored on a 5-point agenda, aims at improving agri industry, infrastructure, and reforming the public sector. It also seeks to establish a resilient economy, create high-paying jobs, and ensure prosperity for the country. According to the president, prioritizing the private sector in implementing these policies is crucial.
Interest rates to spur private sector investment, expansion, and enhanced productivity. Industrial policy is needed to provide direction, to enhance the operational capacity of existing firms, and to facilitate small business incubation as a way to promote the government's One District, One Factory initiative. The industrial policy is to be supported by targeted provision of infrastructure to eliminate critical bottlenecks in the areas of roads, rail, aviation, water, sanitation, and energy, and distribute infrastructure fairly and comprehensively across the country.
Now, the 10-member committee proposed by President Akufo-Addo to deal with concerns of local banks are expected to submit their report by the end of May. A memo cited by Joy Business covering the meeting, which was concluded on Monday, showed that the committee should start work next Tuesday and present its recommendation by May 26. Top on the agenda would be the verdict on whether the December deadline for recapitalization should be extended to the year 2022. The latest information confirms an earlier report by Joy Business on Tuesday about details of the meeting at the presidency. Meanwhile, some of these local banks present at the meeting have rejected accusations that their actions are not good for the Bank of Ghana's independence. Managing Director of GN Bank, Issa Adams, highlights some more concerns of the banking industry.
Look, what is the core mandate of a bank? You mobilize deposits and give the deposits out as what? As loans. That is the core mandate. Now you mobilize the deposits, give it out as loans, and repayment becomes a problem. And Bank of Ghana have very stringent rules when it comes to bad loans. They will insist that you make a provision, you will classify and make a provision. And that tends to affect your bottom line. So almost invariably, whatever you are giving out as loans, if you are not able to recover it, it affects you. So you've taken people's monies to give it out as loans. Later, when the people come for their monies, how do you pay them? So I think the NPL situation is something that has to be looked at very critically, and that can be addressed, I think, if the economy improves, and we've seen some very good signs in the economy. Perhaps if it continues this way, then business will boom, and customers will be able to do good business and be able to pay back their loans on time. So that banks. The reforms, yeah, but we have been having banking reforms for the past 10 years, if not more. Has that brought any changes? Yeah, so the reforms, current reforms that Bank of Ghana is embarking on, I think is a good thing. But all the same, governments, I think, in the long run, will play a more significant role in making banks stand on their feet in this country.
And on that note, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abuachi. Have a good afternoon.